All right, what's up, everybody? I'm Joe, and this is my friend Cindy, and we are the Red Alert Podcast. And dogs barking. Um, Look, I think we all over the last couple days, weeks, whatever the case may be, wherever you are. I mean, there's been positive people, Cindy, that have been on the Facebook page saying this sucks. There's been positive people or negative people that have said it a long time ago that this sucks. And we've reached a breaking point for me in particular with the Detroit Red Wings because, Cindy, there always comes a time in a marriage, where you get so pissed off at something that's not even tied to being married, not even tied to being married. It's just like oh, I'm pissed off because you ate the last piece of bread or something stupid like that, right?
The way
I
you load
did
the
that.
dishwasher.
Yeah, I get in trouble for that a lot too.
I bet you do. It's a man
Or
thing.
or loading it the wrong way, and I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
loading it the wrong way, so it is what it is. But anyways, so I'm watching the Ottawa game, the Detroit game. I'm watching that game, and I'm like, okay, I made sausage and peppers, the whole Italian 9 yards. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, Jenna's gonna be really happy with the whole situation. I'm like, all right, cool. Watch the Red Wing game. They're losing 1-0. Then they're losing 2-0. And then they're losing 3-0. And I'm like, then Jenna comes home. The baby is about to fall asleep, I'm like, all right, we're good to go. I was like, and then I look at the score and I was instantly pissed off. And I was like, all right, I gotta go. And Jenna's like, where are you gonna go? And I'm like, I gotta go to Meyer to get windshield washer solvent. Like, that's where I gotta go. So it was like that. Everyone has that time where they get pissed off over something. Like, I'm about to get pissed off about this dog. But I was like, look, I gotta go. I gotta get windshield washer solvent. Like, that's just the reality. So
You need a distraction from what's pissing you off.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was funny because, and I say this because you've been there. Everybody's been there that listens to the podcast. Like, you're just like at a certain point in time, you're like, okay, I just gotta go. I gotta go somewhere and basically get my mind off things. And it was for stupid. Even Jenna was like, windshield washer solvent, and I felt like a total whack job because I'm like, I'm just pissed off about this game. And I didn't want to say that because like I was pissed off about the Red Wings game, but I was absolutely pretty pissed off about that game because you missed the podcast before. You missed the podcast before where I was talking about this is, the Boston game was something you could build off, and it's something that you could take with you. And if you play this way for against Ottawa and you play this way against Buffalo and Philadelphia, you have a shot to win. And then I watched what I watched on Tuesday. They somehow, by the grace of God, win one on Friday, where it was just, I didn't think they were going to win that game, but they did. Especially before the game. And then when the game started, I'm like, wow, where'd this team come from? And then you fast forward to Saturday, which is on national TV again, and you watch the Red Wings fall down 4-0 and don't decide to play until the last 3, 4, 5 minutes, which was annoying as it is. So what I'm trying to say is this team has brought me to my breaking point. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there where this team has already brought you to the breaking point. I have some things I have to say. We'll say in the next part of the podcast. But for right now, man, this is watching this team, the way they've been playing the last couple games is a joke, to be honest. And I can't sit here and poo-poo it. I can't sit here and shine it up because they've dropped literal turds. So the reality of the situation is this. I am at my breaking point. I don't know if many other people are at the breaking point. And Ronnie White, who's on Facebook, he brings up a great point that I have said and you have said for this past whole year. Without a doubt, this team isn't built for a playoff run. No grit. And there's a grit in the background of my thing. So I agree with that 100%. I'm gonna tell you this right now. If I was Yzerman, I feel like I would have to just give. I'd have to buy DeBrincat a house because without DeBrincat, you wouldn't be nowhere, and that's the sad reality of this thing. And that's where I'm at right now. The breaking point's real. Like I didn't think I'd ever reach it because I'm more of a fan that I'm not. I'm more of a fan that kind of like, okay, that sucks, but this is how we could fix it. But Cindy, there comes a point in time in every person's life where you're just like, this is it. I've had enough. I've had enough.
Well, and I think a lot of people share your frustration, Joe, and I think you hit on why people are so frustrated. And that is that you get these glimmers of hope. You get these visions, as brief as they may be, of what this team is capable of. They can play better. What's frustrating as hell is why they don't play better. Like, what
Mhm.
the hell is going on here? It's not that the talent isn't there. It's not that the skill isn't there. It's not that the capability isn't there. It seems to be that the will isn't there. And I don't know if they've just gotten so disappointed. I don't know if they've just gotten so let down by the number of injuries and they just can't roll with the punches on this. Maybe they don't have enough experience outside of, say, Perron, DeBrincat, Kane, those guys. Maybe they don't have enough experience to know how to respond to that, and they're just getting let down by it. I'm not sure, but there certainly is capability to win. There's capability to play better, and so fans are left with nothing but obviously they don't want it. Obviously there's not enough grit, as was said earlier. There's not enough, they can't tough this out. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but I said it was on the podcast maybe, oh, I don't know, 5, 6 weeks ago, something like that. And we were talking about how many points the Red Wings would get. And a couple things that I'm going to stand by on that podcast because I think it's going to probably come pretty close. And that is, you were a little more bullish, like you were saying, you're a little more bullish on them. I'll tell you right now, the Red Wings are in a bear market, and I'm bearish on the Wings right now. I said several weeks ago that I thought they might finish with about like 97 points. I think you said 98. I said I'll do one less. I'll say 97. I think if I'm remembering that right. And I
Yeah.
also said if they make it into the playoffs, they're going to squeak in there. By like the grace of God, they're going to squeak in there. And I think that is really a very likely scenario. Right now, the current playoff probabilities for the Wings, depending on who you ask, are about 40% to make the playoffs. Most are looking, down into the upper 30s, are where most of the playoff probabilities are falling. I agree with that. I'd fall somewhere about 39% right now because here's the thing: the Red Wings have conceded their control over this. They are no longer in control of their own destiny here. Before they were, now they no longer are because it's not a matter of how many games they win. It's also a matter of how many games the opponents lose. And that is completely out of their control. So they have lost control of their own destiny, sadly. And now all they can do is what they can do. And with 9 games left, I really don't see them and like I said, I'm bearish on the Wings right now. I don't see a path forward to them picking up more than 10 points for the rest of the season. I was hopeful that they were going to end up somewhere about 97. I'm going to say I'm on the under on that now. I think if they reach 95, I'll be a little surprised. I think they're going to fall somewhere between, probably about 90, you know, maybe 92 to 95. And I don't know if that's going to be enough, Joe. I really don't. It would take an implosion by the Columbus Blue Jackets, an implosion, by Ottawa. It would take an implosion by some of these other heavy competitors that they're currently tied with. It's going to take an implosion on those teams in order for the Red Wings to pull this off because I don't think they are going to be looking at taking more than 10, 11 points. I just don't see where that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm the most frustrated with, and this is me talking, and obviously I always say, the one thing you could talk about with the Detroit Red Wings is like, okay, they're starting to show themselves, right? They're starting to show themselves. And when you look at the teams like the Red Wings right now, when I look at the playoff probability on hockey stats, they have a 68% chance to miss the playoffs right now. So they are at a 31% chance odds. If they beat Pittsburgh, it's 42%. If they win, they lose, it goes down to 22.2%. Then I was looking over the standings points per game, and I look at, yes, they have gotten better. Points wise, they have gotten better. They 97 points is should get you in most years. It's projected 97 points, so you'd be right on the money. But here's the reality: like, I think we've reached a phase in this whole rebuild where you're starting to get a little antsy, right? You're starting to get a little bit mad because it hasn't happened as much. We talked about we're on this podcast, we're very in lockstep with how long it takes to rebuild a hockey team. But we're not gonna make it to where it's an infinite deadline where you're just gonna get whatever amount of time you want. I mean, the reality of the situation is this is the 100th year of a prestigious franchise, and you're gonna have no playoffs for 10 straight years potentially. That is a joke. And any fan out there, they'll agree with it. It's not what you expected from Iserman. And if we really want the real reality of where we are right now, you look at, I look at this team and I go, it was built wrong. That's my whole philosophy. Is this team? I make fun of the Edmonton Oilers. I make fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I make fun of the Vancouver Canucks. But all I had to do was look in my own backyard and see that my team is also soft. They're just a soft hockey team. They're really soft. I mean, I don't know how much more you could say. Like, they're not a team that people fear. They're not a team that people want. When teams play Detroit, they're like, okay, this is easy. And to all the people that there's people out there, Cindy, that are like, let's go get Quinn Hughes. Remember that whole trade fiasco?
Oh
Here's
yeah.
the here's the deal. You can go get Quinn Hughes right now. It's not changing a damn thing. Because in the real reality of things, you're not winning a cup like this. You're not winning a cup when you're soft. And let's be honest with Quinn Hughes. What's the major flaw in his game that they always talk about? They've talked about in Vancouver. They've talked about since he was at Michigan. He's not a physical player. He's never been physical. He's an offensive player who's great at what he does. But I will argue with you this. Yes, the Red Wings could be better 5-on-5, but that's because they're not hard to play against. Like, teams know, like, they're not gonna really challenge them. They're not, they're soft. Like, that's just what they look at the last two lines of the Red Wings and they go, wow. And coming into this year, I thought we would have a better team with Appleton, and I even had Rasmussen. I said Rasmussen, he's played, and McClellan's calling this stuff out in real time. He's like, they're just jerseys, and I'm like, oh my god, here we go again. Like, if the coach is calling you out saying you're just jerseys, I mean, that's basically a big F you to guys not named DeBrincat, Larkin, Edmondson, Sider, Kane, all those guys, Raymond. For the rest of the guys, like, this is a letter you got to wear.
Well, and hopefully they're coming to that recognition inside the front office. There's a lot of talk about the hot seat that Steve Yzerman is sitting in. And there's a lot of people that want to place a lot of the blame for how this team has been built on Steve Yzerman, because really the buck stops with him. He makes all of the decisions. And there's a lot of questions about why Steve has not made this team more physical. Why hasn't he built it tougher than what he has? I don't know the answer to why that is. Maybe he was looking for a more skill-based team. Maybe he was hoping to that it would just kind of come along. Maybe he's kind of pinning all his hopes on his upcoming prospects and developing them. And but to be honest, where in the prospect pool do you see any physicality? I don't really think you see physicality in the prospect pool. I
I,
also think he's been somewhat distracted by the goaltender problem. We still had a goaltender problem, even though Gibby's been great. I mean, but he has had some absolutely disastrous games. And so, even though he's been outstanding in some, he's been disastrous in others, and you really don't have a whole lot of backup there.
yeah.
And yeah, so I'm not quite sure what Steve was thinking and why. Look, he's always been enamored with with the Swedes, right? We talked about the Swedes are coming, right? He loves these European players that are, brilliant skaters, but they don't have the tenacity and the grit that you find in, like your North Atlantics, or excuse me, your North American players, your Canadian players. And quite frankly, the American players are quite soft, to be honest with you. I think you want some grit, you're going to have to go north of the border here and try to pull some of those tough Canadian boys out of there. But what has happened is just kind of this, I hate to say it, and I don't know any other way to say it, Joe, but it's like this pussification of the league in general. And a lot of them have gone that way. So I think at the end of the day, you can't change the nature of the game. And the nature of the game is you have got to be a physical, tough player.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Because like I look at this, and this is how the Red Wings have been this year. So the ninth best pair in terms of defensemen is Edvinsson and Sider. Okay, there you go. Um, the fifth best goalie in goals saved against is John Gibson. He's fifth in the league. The best forward line, tied for eighth, is DeBrincat, Kopp, and Kane. Now we could have used Kopp for a while, and if you really want to go down the rabbit hole of like, okay, where is Larkin and Raymond? And they're not far from it, but it just goes to show you like this team has talent. Okay, they lack in the critical areas that you need talent, and it doesn't matter how you slice it. This has been, like we've said, this has been just a total debacle, to be honest. And we've said it for, mm, God, we're going on years where just be tougher to play against, you know? And Eric says, the play at home has been terrible. Maybe it's a good thing they're going on the road this week. We'll talk about that because they did not play good at home. And obviously, the Larkin injury uh, skewed things, but let me just put this out there for everyone to, understand. You still went 500. You got Larkin back, and in the two biggest games at home, you got in a 3-0 deficit. I don't care if your captain was hurt. I don't care about any of that. You fallen behind 3-0 at home, where the crowd was asking to be put in the game. They were asking, let do something, and they couldn't do it. They pissed away points. They did it against Florida. They did it against I forget who they did it against Dallas, the Vegas Golden Knights. Like this team has really just when they go in the tank, they go in the tank, and this is not a good time to go in the tank for sure. But over this whole stretch, this 3-game stretch, I just came to a rude awakening that this team is in a terrible spot and they're soft, and that's the two worst things that you can ever have because
Well, here,
they're gonna be
go.
playing some tough teams coming up, and they're gonna be playing on the road, and it's piss or get off the pot. Because I gotta tell you, Cindy, I'm at the point where we get to the off season, and it'll play into our next topic that we're gonna talk about. But this is it, in my opinion. This is it.
So here's the thing. There's a particular stat that I've been watching closely. And if anybody's been kind of really watching the standings, there's got to be one stat in there that should have been bothering you and been a harbinger for what we're seeing right now. Okay. And that is look at the differential. The Wings
Hmm.
have been in the minus category, regardless of position. They have been in the minus category, or at least if they were in the plus category, they were lower than the nearest opponents. Okay. They have been having an offensive disaster. There's not been enough offense. They haven't been scoring enough goals. And the fact that for the last 6 weeks they have been in the negative in the goal differential really tells you all you need to know. The problem is their lack of offense. Why has there been a lack? And this was before the Larkin injury. This was before all the other barrage of injuries that we got. They are in a bit of an offensive juggernaut. They can't seem to get out of their own way enough to get into the opponent's net. And in a lot of people might say, well, you can attribute it to this, look at the increase, look how many turnovers there are in the neutral zone, look at their lack of puck control in their own zone. Look at, they've got puck control problems. They're turning over too much in the neutral zone. I mean, we all know what contributes to a lack of offense. But what concerns me, Joe, is that they haven't corrected that. I mean, if a politician out in, Macomb County, Michigan knows this and can see it, somebody who's never played a game of hockey ever, never played the game, but I can see it. If I can see it, then certainly these professionals can see it. And I just don't know why it hasn't been corrected, because it's been plaguing the Red Wings for weeks, if not really for the majority of the season. And it's only because other teams hadn't caught up yet. Well, now they have, and the Red Wings haven't adjusted, and they're getting run over.
Yeah, and it was funny because I was watching the game, and like you said, we've been talking about this all year long. Goal differential, they're -3 right now. I was gonna say that mid sentence, but then something decided to fall off the table, so that was funny. But it was funny because this is what we've been talking about, and for years, me and you've been talking about goaltending, and I feel like I have to mention this as a former goaltender. When you put John Gibson in the position where he has to start 11 straight starts, you don't have a backup goaltender. Like, let's not poo-poo. Let's be honest with it. Like, John Gibson, he's older, okay? He's what, 33? He's had injuries before. At some point, like, you're gonna get broken down. Like, there's a reason why goalies don't play as much as they used to do in the 90s and the early 2000s. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. I mean, there's guys like Sorokin, but John Gibson's played more games than Sorokin in New York. So the whole thing has been a sham, to be honest, and it's been a disaster for the Red Wings. And this is kind of where I'm going, Cindy. Is there a change, a possibility? Like, because we look at this Red Wings team, and Elliot Friedman brought this up. Could Yzerman at the end of the year say, "Look, I've had my run. I'm gonna go up to president of hockey operations. I'm not getting fired," because I don't think the Red Wings organization would do him like that. I think that's kind of cutthroat, and I don't think Steve Yzerman really has done a terrible job of acquiring good players in terms of draft picks, but it's going to take time because they didn't draft the number one overall guy, right? So I don't think it's Yzerman. I mean, his free agent acquisitions are terrible, but he's better be thankful for DeBrincat and Kane, or else it would be a total nightmare. But I don't know, Cindy. That was a good possibility that Elliot Friedman brought up. He said, "Look, there's a possibility that could happen, and there's always a possibility it could happen. If they miss the playoffs again in the 100th year of the franchise for the 10th straight year, I mean, there's going to be a lot that has to be talked about in the building uncomfortably, because you know as well as I do, whether you're in a business, whether you're in politics." When things aren't going well and they haven't gone well, you have to make decisions that you have to talk about decisions that you don't really want to talk about. That's just the reality of the situation. So when I look at Yzerman, and I grade the way this team has looked so far. I can't help but wonder if that would be a possibility coming up, because if they miss the playoffs again, there's going to be a lot of words talked about in that organization, not just with Eiserman and the scouts, but the ownership. Like Chris Sillage is going to be like, dude, what is going on? Like, why are the Tigers in a better position than the Red Wings right now? And then why are the Canadians rebuilding faster than the Red Wings? Because they've made better pro personnel decisions than Detroit has made. That's clear and obvious. I mean, the only thing that's missing in Montreal is a goaltender, but they got guys in the prospect pool. So I would say Montreal has done a damn good job at pro personnel, and Detroit hasn't. That's the reason that we're in this position. But what do you think about that? Because I think that's a possibility, in my opinion.
Okay, so this is something that I know a little bit about because I've been having conversations with a lot of people that have been in and around some of these business decisions for several years now. And let me give you my take on it. First off, is it a possibility? It is a possibility. However, let's look at who makes that decision. There's only one person that's going to make that decision, and that's going to be Chris Ilitch. And I think before Chris Ilitch makes that decision, and by the way, that scenario that you just proposed has been getting talked about for several seasons now among the real experienced hockey people that I've talked to that are friends of mine. That this scenario has been talked about. They all suggest that that's what should happen. Okay, Steve Yzerman is not cut out to be GM. There's been a lot of them very critical of him as a GM, and some of them have been former GMs or are going to be future GMs. So, they are in the front office. They are front office guys, but they're also guys that have spent a lot of time on the ice, behind the bench. And these are a lot of very, very critical people. So, but they do all seem to agree that Steve Yzerman's best fit is not as GM. He should be president of hockey operations, and they should bring in, quote, a real GM. I didn't say that, but that is being said. Now, here's the other thing. Chris Ilitch, many of them believe, is really not engaged like his dad was, right? And that he's not as engaged with the organization to really care. The only time that's really going to happen, and like most ownership, they're obviously looking at the bottom line of it, but also it's a matter of like, hey, you're embarrassing me now, right? I mean, I don't even have a team I could be proud of, and it's a joke. What is being suggested to me is before we were to see that happen, it would be a more likely scenario that he would sell the team. And there are apparently, from what my understanding is from the people I've talked to, there is a buyer that has been waiting in the wings for Chris Ilitch to make that decision, and this could very well be the decision point for him on whether or not. So it would not surprise me. I think it would be more likely before you see the scenario that you proposed that there would be a sale of the team first. And a lot of people who've been around for a long time have known that these buyers, and one in particular, is kind of a standing buyer who's been out there saying, hey, when you're ready to sell, give me a call, and they're ready to go. So I think a change of ownership is actually pretty likely, but it will only be likely once Mrs. Ilitch passes away.
Yep.
Or she's no longer aware of what's going on. And as far as I know, Mrs. Ilitch is still in good shape. So he's not going to make that move until and unless either Mrs. I gives her approval of it, or she's no longer in a position to oppose it, because she loves this team like her husband did. And so that's the problem. Okay, that's the scenario. This is what I'm being told. So and I've been in these conversations have been going on for a couple of years now. So that's what my position is on the likelihood of Steve Yzerman changing positions within the organization.
Well, I look at it like this. We know that Chris Ilitch. People said that about they said it about the Tigers, and the Tigers just spent a bunch of money. Okay, so look, I'm gonna look at it like this: like, okay, Chris Ilitch he might, because of all the things that are happening around him, he might decide to sell a team in the future. Maybe he's just waiting to get this 100th year done and over with. Maybe. Um, there's always been rumors of it. I you would know more than me talking to the people you talk to, but just on the ground level, the fan level, like here's the deal. I think Eiserman at one point is going to have to come to the senses and be like, look, I don't want to ruin my legacy that I built in this city. To if this thing goes off the tracks, it goes off the tracks, and then your legacy does go in the same way Joe Dumars went in with the Pistons. So it's kind of like that. You have to make the decision, and I think with Steve Eiserman, this is the one thing I've said about Eiserman since he got here was, we talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, but how easy was it to build on the fact that you had Victor Hedman and Steven Stamkos? A lot of people don't talk about that when they talk about Steve Eiserman as the general manager, and his pro personnel decisions have not been good. They've not been the same as they were in Tampa Bay, where maybe Steven Stamkos and Victor Hedman allowed Eiserman to be a little more aggressive than he's been in Detroit, because he has not been aggressive in Detroit. And I think the most aggressive move he made was Justin Falk by far. But even like DeBrincat, like that was the guy who wanted to come back home. Okay. Gibson, like that was something that was rumored for years. So it comes down to the point, like, what does he want to do, and what does he think is the best possibility for him right now? And Cindy, I gotta tell you, this has not been what you expect from Eiserman, and I don't think this is what he expects either. And to be honest, he does not look comfortable in front of the media.
Well, and I don't think Steve has ever been comfortable in front of the media, to be honest with you. Does he have the business mind for this? Does he have the tenacity? Does he have the negotiating skills? I think he does. I think that there are other things going on behind the scenes, because and I don't know exactly what those things are. And even if I did, I wouldn't disclose them unless I was allowed. I keep in confidence anything I'm told. If someone says keep it in confidence, I do. So here's the thing, though. The Red Wings have been part of the negotiating and conversations for a lot of these big names. A lot of the things you've heard about. They're in there. They get inside the red zone, if we're going to put it in your football terms. They're in the red zone, but they can never ever get across the goal line. They just can't. Why is that? Why do they get into they? It's not that other teams or that other players aren't entertaining the conversations. They are, but then it falls apart. It's right before they always fall short. Why is that? There's a reason for that, and I don't think you can pin it all on Steve Yzerman. I think the Yzer plan, first off, what it began and now what it is, are not the same. They don't look the same. I think that Steve Yzerman has not really done what he wanted to do, and I'm not so sure it's all his fault. And I'm not saying he's blameless at all. Okay. And maybe the leadership move to make now is exactly what you're saying, Joe. Maybe he does what he did in Tampa Bay and he steps down, either stepping into another position in the organization or he steps away from the organization. But he recognizes that for one reason or another, whether it's his fault or not, he can't seem to get this thing done. And maybe what he needs to do is recognize that you got to put somebody in there who can. And for the good of the organization, step aside. But I don't know. I think this is probably much more of an ownership question. And Steve really has not opened up the pocketbook. I don't know if that's his call or if that's more of an ownership call.
Well,
But
he has opened up the pocketbook because they were against the cap the last 2 years. So, I mean, anyone that says that they didn't, or they were open up the pocketbook, like they were against the cap, and that speaks to Yzerman not being good in pro personnel. And look, there's people in the comments. This guy, Chris Kinney, says Eisman isn't going anywhere. The timeline is 10 years, like last rebuild in 80s and 90s. Different game, different philosophies. I did the research. 7 to 10 years is how long it takes to do a rebuild. And obviously you could have blips along the way. And then, some guy like Dave Nyquist, who he says Eisman is doing great. He is fine. You just said he's great, but then he says fine. And then he says, I'm a babbling idiot. Let's keep it total 100. If he's doing so great, we'd be in the playoffs right now. We would be in the playoffs right now if he was doing great. Like, that's just let's just sit where it is. Like, and then Dave says, "Oh, the 100% the owner is a cheapskate." We've been against the cap for 2 years. Like Cindy just said, maybe the pocketbooks haven't been opened. We've been against the cap for 2 years. Guys like Comfer have been signed, and guys like Vladimir Tarasenko have been signed, and Justin Hall. Like, do I need to go over it again and again? And the best free agent signing that Eisman's made is Shane Gostisbehere, and he gets away for absolutely effing nothing. So look, I'm not gonna sit here and deal with this Rudy Poo stupid arguments that people want to put together. Now, Cindy's putting together a good argument, but the rest of you, I mean, just let's be honest. Like, this has not been good enough, and if you want to say it's been good enough, fine. I don't live my life like that, so there you go.
Rant over right now. No, the rant's just starting. The question is, what now, if any, is there a path to the playoffs? Right? Is there? And I'm just reading what Dallas is saying here. When do you blame the players? McClellan keeps saying the same things need to be fixed every post game, but they do nothing to change it.
That goes back to exactly what I'm talking about, Cindy. And it's the GM that has to make the decisions on roster. Like, he has to make the decisions. Like, we know what we've saw the last couple years. We know what we've seen. And Eisman knows championship level hockey. He can't sit here and say, oh, this is good. I like this level of hockey. What do you do well? I'm going to give it to you, like I said in a video that I did this last week, okay? What do the Red Wings do well? What do they do well? Do they play hard? Do they play physical? No. Are they a grit and grime type team, like kind of like a Florida Panthers, Boston Bruins, where they're just grimy, gritty? They're going to get everything that they need to do to get done. No. Are they a dump and chase team? I would say they try to, but they don't have the level of players to do dump and chase. The teams like that do dump and chase are like, God, do you want to go Winnipeg? Like, I don't know. But they don't have an identity. I mean, you get this far in the rebuild and you're like, do they have an identity? No, they don't.
And I think, Joe, that's probably their biggest challenge. And it's funny because people want to go to all the technicalities and they want to go to all of the statistical indicators, or they want to go to analytics or whatever they want to do, right? And the fact of the matter is, all of those things are just symptoms of the disease that's running rampant through the Detroit Red Wings, and that is there is no identity, and it's a culture problem. All right, this is something that a lot of the pro players that I talk to always, it's culture first. They talk about the intangibles far more than they talk about any kind of statistical indicators or anomalies. Okay, they talk about culture and identity, and I think you're exactly right. If they knew who they were, that would dictate their play. They'd say, okay, this is who we're going to be. This is this is what our game is. Define your game. What is your game? I don't think they know what that is. And one of the things that some of the all the best coaches, doesn't matter, Hal Brooks was huge for it. I mean, he would say, play your game. Play your game. And the thing is, if you say that to the Detroit Red Wings, what does that mean? I'm not sure they know what that means, and that's a problem. And so they don't have an identified style. They have no identity, and they're the culture, as far as, I think you've got some definite differences in that locker room, and all the guys will talk well of each other. I've never heard anybody necessarily talk badly of each other, but the fact is that you've got a lot of different backgrounds and styles coming in there that they need to unite under one system. And I think Todd McClellan has, and to the point of do you blame the players? I think absolutely. Absolutely. They aren't, are they not implementing? It would sure seem like it, because Todd McClellan's a pretty straightforward kind of a guy. I don't think he's been unclear about what he wants, but I think the Red Wings are unclear about who they are. And that's where they're running into some problems. Um, Paths forward. Um,
Right there.
I don't know. Not very many left. It's a very narrow path. Is there one there? Yes, but the fact is, it just depends on too many things that the Red Wings can't control.
And here's what I'll say on the last point about the whole situation, and then we'll get to what is next with Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, and
Yeah.
Minnesota. Let me just say this: there's a comment that came from Jocks, and he says the GM and the coach are going anywhere. If it is more likely that Larkin gets shown the door as the team fails under his leadership. Let's just put one thing perfectly clear, Jocks. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you think, to be honest. Here's the reality of the situation. If you think Dylan Larkin is the issue, I don't care what team you have. When you have a very limited team in terms of talent, and you're only two lines of a team, and you have talent that is underutilized or overutilized, and the bottom two lines of your team are junk, and for whatever reason you fall apart, that's not on Larkin. This is a roster issue. This is an identity issue. Like, there's nothing here that says, oh, it's Larkin's fault. It's his leadership. What does leadership mean? What does leadership mean? Does leadership mean when oh my, everyone thinks, oh, rah 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 BS. Okay, Eisenman wasn't a rah 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 kind of guy. Okay, so let's cut the BS and let's just look at it realistically. When the Red Wings started turning the corner under when Eisenman was captain, Cindy, you're gonna be amazed by this factual statement here. They had talent. They had talent.
Yeah.
All throughout the lineup. Lidstrom. Oh, here comes Fedorov. Oh, here comes Draper. Oh, here comes here comes Paul Coffey. Like, what are we doing? Like, you keep saying under Larkin. What is this team not, or are they a playoff team in your eyes? And if you say they're a playoff team, I mean, I want what you're smoking. I really want what you're smoking.
Well, there's a disconnect. Okay, there's a disconnect that we can see on the ice, and the question that I would have for Jacques is, what is Larkin supposed to do if he's the problem? And by the way, I'm with you, Joe. I don't believe Larkin is the problem. Just like, I mean, I don't think he was the magic ingredient either. Okay.
No.
What I think was the magic ingredient at the beginning of this season, which we no longer have, is consistency. You're not seeing consistent play. Some, they're up, they're down, they're up, they've lost sight of the consistency that they had, and I don't know why that is. But that's something that Todd McClellan needs to fix. Okay, and these players, he needs to get them back all on the same page. So, but my question would be, if Larkin is the problem, what should he be doing that he's not doing? And that might be the question to answer, because I don't know what more he could do than he's already doing. And the guy's been playing hurt. I think your best indicator, and I said this on the last podcast, I'm going to reiterate it. If you want to know what the sense is inside the organization, see how often they play Dylan Larkin. See how much time on ice, and see if you see him in the lineup. When they pull Larkin out of that lineup or significantly reduce his ice time, that's when you're going to know that they've written it off. Until that point, there's still hope in there somewhere. But there's no doubt with the most recent loss that really, I don't want to say put a nail in their coffin, but boy, it sure did limit their options, significantly limited their options. And took things out of their hands, like I've said all show. I mean, I don't know how else to say is, the thing of it is when you're saying, well, Larkin's got to change something, or you blame the players, or this person's got to. The fact of the matter is, Joe, that uh, even if everyone steps up and takes responsibility for their piece of this, there's really very little the Red Wings have to control anymore. Even if they won out, which isn't going to happen, okay, they're not going to take 18 points. That's not going to happen. I think their best case scenario is, like I said, 10, 11 maybe, if they can, pull off, getting a point out of the sixth game. But I think that's their best case scenario. The question is, and I think the only question that remains is 96 or 97 points going to be enough? And
Yeah, we could agree on this. I mean, we got limited time left. We got 3 minutes left up until. But let me just say this: we're running out of math right here. Okay, the math ain't mathing right now, and we look at the hockey standings for Detroit. I talked about point percentage the whole year. Well, Columbus has a better point percentage right now. Ottawa's tied with Detroit. Philadelphia's tied with Detroit, and you're all stacked together. 73 games played. The Blue Jackets have one more game less than you. So do the Bruins. But in my opinion, you're going to have to win 6. You're going to have to win this week alone. You're going to have to win 3 of these games. No matter how it's sliced, you have to win the Philadelphia game. That's number 1. You have to win the Pittsburgh game. That's number 2. And I would say you have to beat New York. Now, if you sweep the board, you're in a better situation. If you win 3, you're staving off elimination for another week. But it's gonna get really tactical here down the stretch, and they need to really rein it all in, because they put themselves in this position.
So here's my take: is the must-win game for them is the Columbus Blue Jackets on April the 7th. That's an absolute must-win,
Yep.
because that's really who they're chasing anyway. I mean, that's a 4-point game in all
Yep.
reality, right? So
I think
they've got to win against the Blue Jackets.
I think you could say, we could meet in the middle here. I think you could say the same about all these. There's 3 games that are 4-point games. Pittsburgh, because they might fall back into the standings. You got Philadelphia, that's a 4-point game. You got Columbus at home and Philadelphia at home. You got 4 4-point games, so you're not out of it. But if you don't cash in, you're gonna get absolutely railroaded.
Here's where I think their path to victory lies, okay? And it's narrow, but it's there. They need to beat Columbus on the 7th, and they've got to take the next 2 games against the Flyers, because that is absolutely massive, because they're tied with us at 86 points right now. So you got to win both games against Philadelphia. You got to win against Columbus. Now, if you're able to do that, now everything else to me is secondary. And I understand where you're coming from with Pittsburgh. I do. But for me, the 3 games that are absolute must wins in order for this to work is Columbus and the 2 against Philadelphia.
I agree with that 100%. I think that's exactly where it's got to go, in my opinion, because look, Philadelphia. They played Philadelphia twice. Columbus, Pittsburgh. Those games they're crucial, but you got to win the games that you're expected to win, like New York and New Jersey. So, look, this is going to be a tight down the stretch, and Jocks, he's over there just talking like he says we don't know what we're talking about. Anyways, who cares? It's been a great podcast, Cindy. Obviously, we'll see what happens this week, and next Monday, I think we will be. Yeah, next Monday we could circle back, because Columbus is the next day, Philadelphia is the next day. Let's see if we're still alive by the end of this. This is going to be a great one.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good show next time. Jacques, please tune back into our next live and keep us in check, man. We need you to let people know when we don't know what we're talking about. And I'm glad that you're listening. I'm glad you join us, all of you. I'm so happy that all of you are here. Tell your friends, say, hey, there's this chick on talking hockey, has no idea what she's talking about, and then she's on there.
Yeah,
with
we're just a couple of blabbering idiots,
Yeah. She's on there with the Luke Combs lookalike guy, and neither one of them know what they're talking about. And you guys can have a great time beating us up. Hey, I'm good with that.
All right, it's been a good podcast. We'll post it afterwards. Thank you to everyone who listened, watched, and then we'll have more content throughout the week. But for me and Cindy, thank you for watching. We put together a little podcast because obviously it's a big week for Detroit, and we'll talk about it next week on the regular podcast.
Like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Watch us wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to us on all of the podcast platforms. And remember to like, subscribe, comment. We love all you guys out there. We look forward to seeing you next week.
All right. See you guys next week.
See you then.